Welcome back, and thank you so much to Alex for giving us everything we need to know about driving traffic to our website using all the latest technology and buzzwords, AI, ChatGPT. If you missed it, no worries. We've got it recorded. We will share it out afterwards. Let's kick it off with our next session. We're talking about converting traffic into leads and converting those leads into appointments. We have two wonderful speakers here. I'm very excited to welcome Matt Like of Morgan Auto Group and Steve Stauning of Stauning's Solutions Group. Welcome to you both. I'll have you give an introduction to yourselves here in just a moment. We are recording this. We will share it out afterwards. If you have Q&A, use the chat. We'll be online and we can answer these as we go. And then don't forget, you can share with us your worst trade-in story. Email that to marketing@tradepending.com. And as we're doing all day, actually showing you how big this thing is. It is the most amazing cooler of all time. You definitely want it. Please submit that story to us. So with that being said, I will stop the screen sharing there and we'll kick it over. Matt, I'm going to kick it off to you to introduce us first and then over to Steve. Take it away, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Matthew. So yes, like Matthew said, my name is Matt Like. I work for the Morgan Auto Group. I've been with us for about 11 years. Started out selling used cars. And I guess because I'm a computer nerd, they asked me to run an internet department one day. And eventually that became a regional e-commerce director position after occupying several different sales manager roles within the company for different stores. And I've just spent the majority of my career absorbing training material from people who know what they're talking about, finding what works, and then replicating it. And so I've really applied that to the areas of e-commerce within our company, and we've had some great results from it.
Awesome. Thank you. Steve, take it away.
I'm Steve Stauning. I run the Stauning Solutions Group. We started in 2009, basically training and marketing management for dealers, OEMs, and industry vendors. Prior to this, I was the director of e-commerce for the Asbury Automotive Group. So similar background to Matt's.
And apparently there's some collective book reading go on here. Matt, what's going on there?
Oh, yeah. So I've got Steve's book on ridiculously simple sales management, and I've recommended it to several of my sales managers because it's ridiculously simple. We overcomplicate things too much in this business, I think. So great read.
And Steve, there's another book coming out too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Working on ridiculously simple car selling right now. Just released ridiculously simple customer experience. Not an automotive specific book as much as the car selling book is going to be, and as much as the sales management book that Matt's talking about is.
Awesome. I love that you guys are connected in ways we don't even know until we're here today. All right, so we're going to kick it off. The first half of this is going to be Matt talking us through his approach, his philosophy, his tactics on converting website traffic into leads. And so I guess before we get into all those tactics, Matt, actually, what is your philosophy on converting website traffic into leads? I mean, it's not just doing day-to-day stuff. Like, you have a framework that you think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so when it comes to converting website visitors into leads, my philosophy is that you've got to have certain sections of your website set up in the most optimal way in order to encourage that conversion. And a lot of that starts at the home page, but it extends to your SRP page, your VDP page, the different tools and things that you use, the CTA stack on the website, all those buttons that the customer has a choice of which to click. And, what order are those buttons in? What do those buttons say? And all your landing pages on your website need to be optimized with the right verbiage. A lot of that has SEO value, but more so it needs to add value to the customer to make them take some kind of action. So when you combine really all of those elements, you get a more higher performing website. And so I've learned a lot of this from, the advertising agency that I work with, from sitting on webinars like this, consulting with experts like Brian Pash and some others. And so I guess we could kind of start with the homepage. In my opinion, you need to have all of the profit centers easily available right there for the customer when they get to that homepage. So for a lot of my stores, we have like new cars, used cars, we have service, we have parts, we have some kind of special that we do. We also have things like get your 10-second trade value, for example, or maybe a link to our buying center for vehicle acquisition that'll encourage a lot of trade-ins, but also letting the customers know, hey, we buy cars and you can get your value in 10 seconds using the trade pending tool. Or we may have a soft credit pool tool that a customer can get their instant free credit score on our website. So putting things out there for the customer in that way encourages a lot of conversion. It gets customers to take some kind of action. But that all ties into, what does that button say? Where is it placed? Is it above the fold? Is the customer going to be able to easily access this? And when they get to it, are they going to finally take that action? I've used trade tools in the past where you have to go through 30 screens before you can even submit a lead, before you can even enter the information. Which I think is not optimal by any means, but I definitely think trade pending has been the best tool that I've used for encouraging customers to give us their trade information, to get the lead, most importantly. And then some of the things that you guys have done with Auto APR since you acquired them as well have really made engagement and conversion work well, because they can pick any entry point to get into a digital retailing type of environment and that type of experience. And they start with one thing, whether it's, making a payment, digital retailing type of situation, or if it's getting their trade, or if it's starting with their credit, they can go either of those routes, any of those. And then you offer the rest of the process in a simple, easy to use manner. And that's just going to encourage a lot more customer conversion. So that kind of ties it in on the home page. Now, when it comes to your SRP, a lot of times we will have rotating banners on the top of the page that have something that's current, something that's active, something that's specific, and something that's more importantly unique. So you want to stand out, you got to cut through the noise through all your competition, right? And so if you have very generic offers on your website, something they can get at any other store of your same manufacturer, then you're not cutting through that noise. You have to have something concrete, something specific that makes your dealership stand out. Get something that's colorful and tasteful, not something that's like really gaudy and crazy looking on your website, but something that gets the customer's attention. So a lot of times gifts like in your banners that flash or change to give you more information on what that tool is or what that offer is and how it can serve the customer, it's going to get more people to click on it. And that's like starting at the top of your SRP page. As you move down that page, you have to have a lot of other things right on your website too, like your inventory photos, having those things lined up, every car facing the same way, everything looking clean, consistent. You don't have your initial trade appraisal photos as your photo thumbnail where you can see, a dirty car or it's parked in a dirt lot or something like that. Like that all matters. And once the customer does find something that piques their interest, whether that's the car or the CTA itself, that's going to determine which direction they go to end up ultimately giving you the lead, which is what you're looking for. So they could click on the photo thumbnail of that car and it's going to take them to your VDP page. And in my philosophy, I like to have the VDP pages match the SRP pages in terms of your photos, in terms of your CTA buttons, the same order, the same verbiage. Every now and again, we'll put some more CTAs on a VDP because I believe that on your SRP, you want to stick to 4 or less CTAs. It's good to give the customer options, but not too many options that can overwhelm or confuse the customer. But you want to offer something. In most of my stores, we do something like a long time ago, it used to be like Giddy price, right? And then COVID hit. And then supply was in high demand and we had very short supply, right? So asking the customer to submit you a lead on a conversation that you don't really want to have necessarily right out of the gate about going straight to price, we had to look at that and we had to test it and change the verbiage, try something else out, whether it was check availability or maybe unlock instant savings, which is something we've been running with at a lot of my stores lately, is an offer unlock as the primary CTA. But other stores, we might use the digital retailing tool or the free credit score tool. But we find that information out by using Google Analytics. We take a look at what buttons are getting the most amount of clicks. Okay, and of the ones that are getting clicked, which buttons have the highest conversion rate? So somebody's opening this up, how many times are they submitting a lead? And when we find that information out, it helps us to just reorganize those CTAs in the most meaningful way that's going to get you the most conversion. And then we'll A/B test sometimes. This button that's in your top position says XYZ. What if we changed it to A, B, C? What does that do to the conversion? And we track that. And we end up ultimately, choosing the one that performs the best. And in my opinion, you need to have your CTA stack lined up with a color violator in the top position. So I like to have all of my CTA buttons uniform, and that usually goes along with the branding of the OEM. So if you've got a Honda store, my CTAs are going to be blue, right? Just like most of Honda's marketing is blue and white. But my top CTA, the one I want people to click on the most, is not going to be blue. It'll be something else. And here in Gainesville, Florida, we do orange because go Gators, right? And so we put that CTA at the top in orange, and that's going to make it stand out more. It's got to have the most powerful message behind it to have that customer clicking on it. So unlock instant savings. That's a little bit better than get e-price, in my opinion, especially if you're trying to have a conversation with a customer when you first get that lead, that you want to go well. And in my opinion, it's just not the wisest idea to go straight to price in a market where that's been a point of friction for a lot of consumers over the last couple of years. And so we need to get back to adding value. And if you can add the value, you're going to get the customer to convert. You're going to get them to set that appointment. And so I know we'll talk a lot about that a little bit more later. So that kind of covers the SRP page, the VDP page, may have additional CTAs. If you have other tools, just put your top 4 performing on your SRP page. And then there's a few other elements that are worthy of considering when it comes to how do you set up your website for optimal lead conversion. And, some of that's going to be your landing pages. So at all of my stores, we have created buying centers where, we're not using some third party to be this buying center. We've done that in the past, and it does work, and it works well. But we found that if we invest our own marketing dollars into driving customers to our website, where they're separated from our competition's marketing, they know that we can buy their car. They don't even have to buy a car from us. That's inventory acquisition was something we focused on heavily when COVID hit and we needed to acquire more vehicles. So letting customers know about that, putting that in, specific campaigns to drive that traffic, and then showing them you can do it in 10 seconds. You can get your 10-second trade value. And that has worked really, really well. And there's a lot of copy on those pages that's laid out in such a way that it encourages the conversion. It encourages the customer to convert. And we've got some other landing pages as well that help with conversion. One that's not specifically tied into sales, but is extremely important, in my opinion, is a talk to the GM page. That's something that we do here that really helps prevent negative reviews from getting out there online. Customer gives us an opportunity to talk to them, connect with them, understand them, validate them, make things right. If something didn't go the way that they had anticipated, that's a huge one. And that is a lead. I mean, that's a customer conversion, and just putting that out there for them. So that's easily available on all of my websites. And then another thing I wanted to touch on real quick, let me know if I'm running out of time at any point.
We're getting close.
Okay, great. So one of the most important things that I wanted to bring up on today's webinar is the old model of selling internet leads versus the new model of selling internet leads, which, in my opinion, the old model was a customer goes on a website, they see a flashy button that catches their attention. It speaks to them. So they click on it and they're met with a lead form. And when they fill out a lead form, what happens? They sit and they wait. Not very long, though, because the average consumer's attention span is just like your brother, your sister, your significant other, right? We live in a TikTok generation where information is instant, and customers have come to expect an instant type of experience when it comes to the exchange of information in today's world, especially when it comes to buying a car, right? They can do it everywhere else. Why can't they do it here? So after COVID, we adopted digital retailing, wholesale across the board with every store. And what we've done is, instead of collecting lead forms and then chasing that customer and attempting to make contact after they've already moved on from clicking on that button, we've tried to change that to serving them in real time. So you're not chasing them anymore. You're there to do a virtual meet and greet with that customer the moment they click that button. And with different tools that are available out there between the chat and the digital retailing providers, you can get it set up in such a way when a customer clicks on, unlock instant savings or any button that you want your website to display, it'll open up the chat box and send a notification to your managers, your salespeople, your BDC team, and they can jump in real time and help that customer just as if they greeted them at the door. And that's what I call basically your virtual showroom. And that has always led to an increase in lead to appointment rate that I have seen at any stores that I have tried it at, even if I have let the chat provider handle that chat instead of a live agent at the dealership. And I think the reason for that is because the customer ends up feeling like they're already communicating in two-way fashion with somebody representing that dealership. So when we end up following up, even if it wasn't us handling the chat, they're already accustomed to that type of interaction. There's a lot less anxiety about answering the call from the dreaded salesperson if they feel like they've already spoken to somebody from the dealership. So I do recommend you have your teams handle these just like you would at the door, when somebody shows up in your physical showroom. And so that's another great way to increase, your conversion from a website visitor into a lead.
Matt, you dropped a master class on us here in like 13 minutes. We could definitely keep going. I'm going to hand it over to Steve here. So Matt has broken it down for us, his philosophy, his best practices for converting those website visitors into leads. Now you've got the lead. This is where we're going to hand it over to you. You've got a different style here than many. You call it the appointment first approach. Like, what is it and how is it different? How are we turning this lead into an appointment?
Yeah, and by the way, I love Matt's approach with the sort of instant connection with the customer, as long as we're moving them through the funnel and not just vomiting information on them. And so we want to. I mean, that's the key, right? I mean, and so I as you know, I try to keep things simple. And one of the ways that I teach, whether it's BDC agents or salespeople, and it doesn't matter what part of the process they're on, it could be calling an internet lead. It could be talking to someone on the phone. It could be talking to someone on the lot. Their only goal should be the next step. It should never be to sell the car unless that's the next step. The only goal ever is the next step in the road to the sale. So I get a new lead. My only goal is to drive a reconnection. Hopefully that's by phone. If not by phone, then by text. If not by phone or text, all right, I'll take email. Once I've got a reconnection, the next step is to get a warm body in a seat on time. Now, of course, we have people from 500 miles away. We're not going to set appointments with them. There are certain anomalies in today's market that we didn't have really very much pre-COVID. But assuming they live and work in my market, the easiest way to move them to the step that they want, right? If we think about that online shopper that submitted the lead, we know they've done more than 9 hours of online research on average. We know they've been in market for weeks before they ever filled out that lead form. If we showed them a traditional road to the sale with meet and greet, needs analysis, qualification, vehicle selection, all of those steps, and we explained what each step meant, and we showed them that road to the sale, and we said, what's the next step that you want to take? They're going to say test drive, right? They'll say, oh yeah, that demo drive thing, that's what I want next, right? We know that 9 out of 10 buyers told JD Power that the test drive was the most influential resource in their decision. When I started selling cars in 1985, and managers still say it today, but my first sales manager said, the feel of the wheel seals the deal. And it does. People still need that test drive to make the decision. So if we think about the new lead came in, what's our next step, right? I get a hold of them. Okay, now what's my next step? It's to set an appointment that shows. And we do that with the appointment first approach. And it's not the old school, just get them in, just get them in. It's actually something that the consumer wants, right? If we truly believe that 9 out of 10 buyers need that test drive to make that decision, then the appointment first approach is like this, right? Barbara Jones submitted a lead on a 2018 Ford Escape. I read the lead. There's no notes in the lead, no questions in the lead. There's a phone number. Call the number. The woman answers, says, "This is Barbara." I don't say, "Is this Barbara Jones?" I don't ask, "Is this the Barbara Jones who inquired about a 2018 Ford Escape?" I don't ask her how her day's going. I don't say, "How about them Sooners?" or whatever state I live in, right? I just go right for the appointment first. "Hi, Barbara. It's Steve calling from Stauning Chevrolet, and I'm just calling to schedule your priority test drive on that 2018 Ford Escape you inquired about." Now, Barbara, we've got 2 priority test drives open on that Escape this morning. We've got a 10:15 and a 10:45. Which one of those works better for you? And if I'll just shut up and wait, 40% of the time, she's going to pick one of my times or give me a better time. Or she'll say something like, "Well, I'm at work. I can't get there till after 5. I say, "Great, you're in luck. I've got a 5:15 and a 5:45. Which one of those works better for you?" And the idea here is twofold. One, we are setting the expectation. I'm just calling to schedule your priority test drive. So that for that 60% that has questions or has an objection, I'll address those, but then I can easily circle back to my goal, which again is an appointment that shows. And that's what the appointment first approach does. The second piece, though, is that we're creating some urgency because we're implying that people are lined up to test drive that 2018 Ford Escape. I'm just calling to schedule your priority test drive on the 20. Now we have 2 priority test drives open on that vehicle this morning. We have a this and a this. And the 2 times I choose, by the way, are about an hour from now and about an hour and a half from now, always on the 15s and 45s. And there's some psychology that goes into all of that, but probably need a bigger webinar to walk through all that.
Right.
But that's the simplicity of it. And the fact is it works. It works better than anything else. It doesn't work every time, right? It only works 40% of the time right away. For that other 60% who have questions or objections, I'm going to address those. And then I'm going to circle back to my goal, which again is an appointment that shows. So I'm not going to not answer questions. I'll answer questions. I'll certainly answer questions that make sense at this step in the road to the sale, right? If she starts to ask about payments, she hasn't even test driven the vehicle yet. Payments are irrelevant if she hates that 2018 Ford Escape. And this isn't the appropriate time to discuss payments. I don't know what her credit score is. I'm sure she'll tell me it's an 800, right? I don't know how much money she's putting down. I'm sure she'll tell me 10,000. I don't know what her trade's worth. I'm sure she'll tell me she's got, 20,000 in equity, right? And if we talk payments now, there's no reason for her to come see the vehicle. And I'll either give her a payment too high and she'll take herself out of the market, or I'll give her a payment too low. And then we've got to peel her off the ceiling, when she's in write-up, because she'll say, "Well, Steve told me over the phone I could be $250 a month in this vehicle."
Totally.
There's no win. And that's and that's why I talk about the next step. Trying to discuss payments, trying to discuss, firm trade values over the phone, trying to discuss interest rates, all of these things, they don't make any sense. Those are all for the write-up. And we're not at that step in the road to the sale yet.
So there's 2 things that stand out to me here. One, this is really simple. And 2, it's also respectful of their time, right? So is this hard to implement?
What's hard is, so for BDC agents, what's hard is that a lot of them have come from a customer service background. And so they feel like it's too pushy, right? We also know from a recent JD Power study or survey of car buyers that fewer than 5% of buyers will reject a car dealership because they feel too much pressure. And my point on that is, if you even think that this is too much pressure, that's okay, because 19 out of 20 aren't going to reject you for it. The other side that has trouble with this are salespeople. If salespeople are answering leads, they're paid to sell a car. And so they will, they'll try it, but then the first time it doesn't work. And of course, it's not even going to work half the time right away, right? It's only 40% effective on the first pass. They'll immediately go back to, trying to build rapport, which is very tough over the phone. They'll immediately, try to sniff out tire kickers. Do I have a real buyer? I don't want to waste my time inviting this guy in if he can't buy. We call that order taker mode. And certainly through the inventory shortages, heck, if I'd been selling cars, in 2021, I'd have been an order taker too, because if you had the car, you were going to sell it. Today, it's getting more difficult, right? The inventories are starting to rise. New car inventories are rising. Used car inventories are rising. Interest rates are higher. But you said something that dovetails back into something Matt said, and that's about the human attention span today. It's only 8 seconds, and by inviting them in right away, right, for the road to the sales step they want, that's the way people think today. They don't have time to have an 11-minute phone call with you. They certainly don't want to have an 11-minute call with you if you ask them.
Yeah, that's great. And again, we're scratching the surface here. There's definitely a lot more to be had. Now, all the listeners, the watchers here that know who to reach out to for more information. I'll leave you guys with a question here. Like, what's too many call to action buttons on a website? Is it 300 or 3,000?
Can I do that first, Matt? Because Matt was right. Matt said 4 on his SRPs. And we've done a lot of studying on this, and the fact is when you give someone too many choices, they can't make a choice.
Right.
And it used to be 3, and now it's really 3 to 4. But beyond 4, you actually see fewer leads. And all the data we've looked at, when you have an SRP with more than 4 calls to action, you get fewer total net leads than when you stick with 4 or go with 3. Now I'll throw it to Matt. I probably took all his thunder.
No, I'm in 100% agreement with you. Really, 4 or less is ideal, in my opinion. It's for all the same reasons that you just listed off. Too many choices creates anxiety for the customer because which is the right one to choose, right? And so, kind of making it very simple. Just like you said, when you're setting an appointment with the customer, you supply the answer and the question for them to make it easy for them to make a decision. I've got a 4:15 or a 5:45. What works best for you? And if that doesn't work, give them 2 more choices and just keep going until they land on something. And so the same is true of the CTAs. Just give them the best and easiest choices that's not overwhelming to them.
Wonderful. Well, Steve from Stauning Solutions Group, Matt from Morgan Auto Group, thank you guys so much for joining us today. It was great having you on this. Thank you for being gracious with your time. For everyone else, don't forget to please give us your worst trade-in story. You can email that to marketing@tradepending.com, and we will pick a winner this afternoon for this big orange yellow Yeti. I have one myself. It is absolutely fantastic.
Matt needs that for Gators, right? That's a gator colored Yeti.
So true.
That's the one.
And with that being
That's
said, we are all done here. Thank you guys both so much for your time. We'll see you at the next session.
Thanks, Matthew.